Thank you for tuning in to Local News Live here on AOC Community Media. It's 9 a.m. Looks like we're popping in now to our reader this morning, Bruce Cohen. Hey, Bruce. Good morning. How are you?
Hey, seconds to spare, huh?
You slid right into the home plate. You got
it. I'm sorry. I must let you and the rest of our listening public know that it's my wife's 60th birthday today, so we were having a birthday breakfast with gifts.
Oh, my goodness.
So,
well, happy birthday. Y'all go do that if you want, Bruce. I'll read for you this morning.
No, it's okay. We're past that. I just wanted to make sure that I was there for her gift opening, and but we're gonna celebrate most of the day. 60. That's a big one.
That's a big one. Yes, please wish her happy birthday for us. That's awesome.
She still looks like she's 30. But so I'm here. So good morning. Thank you, Mandy, for holding the post for me.
Yeah,
I really appreciate it, and for being our tech person at the helm. Are you going to be there all week?
Yeah, I'll be here all week.
Great. I got a text or a message from our Blair saying that she is ready to come climb on board again as far as doing the newscast. So I said for her to get in contact with you, and you could set her up. And then we could do the news together like we used to.
We haven't had a B&B show in at least 9 months, at least.
10 months maybe. I mean, it's really been absent from my life, so we need to get back into it. So we'll see how. Hopefully, she'll contact you, and we can take it from there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead. It's already a few minutes past, so I'm going to go ahead and launch into the news. Thank you, Mandy.
All right. Well, thanks, Bruce. I'll be here listening.
Thank you. And so good morning, Acadiana. This is Local News Live with your host, Bruce Cohen. This is Monday, December 14th. Like I said, my wife's birthday, 60 years old today, 2020. And we'll jump off with the controversy threatens Vermilionville. New board in chaos as members attempt takeover, seek another audit by Claire Taylor. The Bayou Vermilion District Board is in chaos with an attempted takeover of the board by new members who insist on a forensic audit of the organization's finances. A June statement by employees of Vermilionville and the Bayou Vermilion District condemning the death of George Floyd at the hands of Minneapolis police officers set off a wave of consequences. 4 board members resigned, another was replaced when her initial appointment expired, and 1 board member suggested demoting the CEO. Some board members, including a few who belong to the anti-tax group Citizens for a New Louisiana, headed by Michael Lunsford of Breaux Bridge, are pushing for a forensic inquiry or audit despite an annual independent audit of the district's finances. The new board members say they just want a fresh set of eyes to look at the finances, but decline to meet with the CEO and accountant. 1 new board member, though not authorized to do so, began negotiating with and signed a letter of intent with the same Metairie CPA firm that conducted a forensic audit of Lafayette utility systems and its fiber operations, looking for wrongdoing. Most of the 5 commissioners appointed in the past 6 months are trying to gain control of the board. Attempts December 2nd to elect a president and vice president for 2021 ended in a 4-4 tie, with a new slate of district board members on one side and veterans on the other. The election of a president and vice president again are on the board's agenda Wednesday. President Tommy Michaud received 4 votes December 2nd in his bid to remain president. Parent ringleader David Eaton, appointed to the board in July by Lafayette Parish Mayor President Josh Guillory, and a member of Citizens for a New Louisiana, also received 4 votes in his bid to be president. Michaud speculated recently that either someone will change a vote on Wednesday, breaking the tie, or Eaton supporters plan to attend the meeting in person, while others, including himself, attended via Zoom because of the COVID-19 pandemic. If 5 commissioners attend the meeting in person, constituting a quorum of the board, those attending via Zoom will be unable to vote, he said. That would hand the presidency over to Eaton, who did not reply to an email or phone call for comment on this story. The new officers will take over in January, which is when the Lafayette City Council is expected to fill a vacant board seat, bringing the membership to 9 and eliminating the tie. The board includes Michaud, appointed by former President Joe Robideau in October of 2017, Hiram and Don McConnell Jr., appointed by area mayors in October 2018, Christy Cornell, appointed by the former City Parish Council in October 2018, Eaton Mark Wiltz, a member of Citizens for a New Louisiana, who was appointed by the City Council on October 1st, replacing Catherine Schofler, who was denied reappointment. Jason Sullivan and Holden Hogarth, appointed September 1st by the Parish Council, and Calvin and Leger, reappointed July 13th by area mayors after he resigned in June over the Floyd statement. While the new commissioners say they aren't out to punish Vermilionville, the Living Natural History Museum, because of the Floyd statement and controversy, CEO David Cheramay said the mayor president, who was supported in the 2019 runoff by leaders of Citizens for a New Louisiana, said in a recent private meeting he was disappointed that the organization got involved in the controversy. According to Michaud, Guillory said, all of this, the appointment of the new board members, goes down to that statement, Guillory. He said, made a comment of the effect that BVD got involved in politics and now has to live with the consequences, so we're being punished. The new board members looking closely at the budget, especially for Vermilionville, echoing Lunsford's online claims that Vermilionville lost $1 million last year. Michaud and Cheramay said the $1 million was an expenditure, the cost to operate Vermilionville. It was not a loss, Michaud said. It's a service to the community. Taxpayers voted to pay for it. There's nothing wrong with Vermilionville not being able to pay for everything internally. That's an aspiration, not a necessity. Some of the board members disagree. They want to look at some of the history museum's operations, specifically the restaurant and gift shop, to see how they can make more money instead of being supplemented by the Bayou Vermilion district tax collections. Property owners in Lafayette Parish pay 0.75 mils to the district for general maintenance and 0.17 mils for debt service. And the tax generates about $1.9 million a year. At a special October 27th meeting called by 4 board members the day before the regular board meeting, Eaton called for hiring another independent auditor so we can see where all the money is going. The board, at Eaton's recommendation, voted to hire Carr, Riggs, and Ingram, which specializes in forensic investigations, for an audit. On November 10th, CRI submitted an engagement letter to provide forensic services to the Bayou Vermilion District. The letter was addressed to Eaton, who is the Finance Committee Chairman. Cheramay, Michaud, and others on the board learned about it when Eaton forwarded a letter to Cheramay from Jean-Paul Tujac of CRI requesting documents for the forensic audit. Michaud, in a recent statement, said no one gave Eaton the authority to negotiate or sign a contract with CRI. Only Cheramay, as CEO, has the authority, he said. At a December 2nd board meeting, Leger made a motion to give Eaton the authority to negotiate and sign a contract with CRI. The motion failed in a tie. Cheramay has since been negotiating with CRI, with Eaton and Leger pressuring him to sign the contract quickly. One of the sticking points for Cheramay has been the use of the word forensic. The motion approved by the board is for an audit with no mention of forensic, Michaud said, a term that implies wrongdoing. In a December 8th email to board members, Cheramay explained his reasons for not signing the CRI engagement letter. The board motion set a cap of $11,500 for the audit. The engagement letter from CRI said that $11,500 was for initial assessment and listed hourly rates for its employees ranging from $135 to $280 an hour, which would quickly surpass $11,500 cap. He questioned whether the firm was being hired to conduct a forensic study, inquiry, or full audit into the process has been belligerent and acrimonious from the start. This has always been and will always be an audit, Eaton replied via email on December 9th, even though he and others referred to the process as a forensic inquiry. A forensic inquiry, he wrote, is a designation of the audit so we can control costs. Michaud, as chairman, has a final word, saying the discussion before the vote was to conduct an independent audit, not a forensic audit or inquiry. I have instructed Dr. Sharmi to inform Mr. Tujak that the word forensic should be struck from the wording before he can sign the engagement letter, because to use that word would not be in keeping with the spirit of the motion that was passed, Michaud wrote. Okay, turning to our next article, top job at SLCC comes with new challenges. Vincent June takes reins as chancellor by Ken Stickney. Vincent June got word of his elevation to permanent chancellor of South Louisiana Community College, or SLCC, by way of a Zoom call, and that was so 2020, but a personal triumph nonetheless. June 50, who served as interim chancellor after former Chancellor Natalie Harder's departure May 29th, she took the president's job at Coca University in South Carolina, secured his first chancellor's position not in meteoric, fashion, but step up by measured step over 25 years in college administration. In short, he worked his way up. It's a place I want to be. I love the people here. I love the community, June said. Thursday, the day after the Louisiana Community and Technical College Board of Supervisors chose him from a field of 4 finalists for the job at SLCC, a 2-year school with 17,000 students in 8 Acadiana parishes. He arrived at SLCC in 2016, first as Vice Chancellor for Student Services, but later adding the role of Vice Chancellor of Student and Academic Affairs. Those are just some of the roles he's filled in more than a quarter century on campuses from Florida to Washington State. Over those years, he honed what he describes as a boots-on-the-ground skill set, working as an instructor in student housing and residential life, in enrollment and student activities, and more. He served as an interim chancellor before SLCC at Georgia Perimeter College and Metro Atlanta. But June said most impactful is his development into a chancellor's role was his year-long fellowship with the American Council on Education. He spent that year at Cuyahoga Community College in Cleveland with enrollment of more than 50,000, refining skills needed to assume a top job. The ACE Fellowship Program was a turning point for me, he said. The Emerging Leader Program is one of the top ones in the country, preparing people to become college presidents. In fact, he added quickly he was benefited by hard work and good mentorship over the years, earning his doctorate at Washington State at age 25, and deciding his path was in higher education. Since then, he's honed important skills and strength in developing strategic partnerships and building alliances and borrowing best practices from several levels of higher education and then exercising them in others. In some ways, the mission of community colleges is so wide open we have to borrow from different toolkits, he said. He stops along the way to SLCC, involved in building relationships in other campuses and through many professional organizations. After June was announced as the new chancellor, the chat functioned alongside the Zoom call, reflecting enthusiasm both from the SLCC community, but also from friends gained along his career journey, people he hadn't seen in years. That was something to reflect upon as he watched his new career high mark announced and celebrated from the solitude of his office on campus. There was this to consider, too, as the day wore on, the work that lies ahead at SLCC. June assumed SLCC's interim leadership amid the pandemic. There was no time to take a breath as the college shifted in schedule and in delivery of classes. Now there are short-term and long-term goals to set and meet, assessing his semester and preparing for the next semester, which will be the second consecutive full semester under COVID-19 restrictions, developing and finalizing a 5-year plan consistent with the systems plan, and prepping Acadiana people in need of employment with credentials that will get them back into the workforce. I think you still need a plan and a plan around a plan. That's where we are right now, developing strategic priorities for the academic year, looking at realities, shifts in instruction methods over the summer and in the fall. Key, he said, is enabling SLCC students to walk away with credentials. With unemployment high, he said, people are not looking at investing more than 12 weeks for training for work. They need credentials now, he said, and SLCC is determined to provide the short-term training that will provide those credentials. Some people need to be reskilled, he said, Some have to make career transitions. Then there's a matter of enrollment. He said SLCC did well this semester in retaining enrolled students. The college was up in that category year over year, about 8%, but saw a decline about 15% in new enrollment. Overall, he said SLCC is down about 5% in enrollment. Enrollment is a challenge. A lot of us will expect enrollment to decline. People are uncertain about dealing with their families and not unsure about instructional delivery. People still looking for jobs, still have sick loved ones who are still going to experience some hits in enrollment, he said. Other potential students aren't comfortable with technology and shy away from taking remote classes. All that lies ahead of him, though. Last week, he could take a moment to enjoy his personal success. One thing I appreciate from the process is I knew it would happen, but didn't know when it would happen. I'm going through the selection process. I'm glad for going through the selection process. I'm glad it wasn't handed to me. I was able to articulate my career experiences in support of explaining why I was a good fit at SLCC. Those involved with the selection process agreed. On behalf of the Board of Supervisors, I want to congratulate Dr. June on his selection as the new chancellor of SLCC, said Tim Hardy, Louisiana Community and Technical College System Board Supervisor and Chair of the Search Committee. We were impressed by his knowledge and experience of each finalist. After a thorough vetting process, we believe Dr. June is a perfect fit for the students, the college, and the community it serves, and he will continue leading our efforts to deliver world-class academic and workforce training in the greater Acadiana region. It's now 9:17, so I'm going to switch over to a couple of public service announcements. First one is from ARC Acadiana. ARC needs your help to provide safe housing for the homeless. Due to COVID-19 and concerns for community spread, there's been a dramatic decrease in available shelter beds. Those beds will remain unavailable throughout the winter. Many experiencing homelessness may have no other option than to sleep on the street. Throughout this pandemic, ARC has been able to utilize local hotel and motel rooms as a temporary housing solution. From there, case managers help our fellow Acadians transition to permanent housing. We are very proud of our success in keeping those we are served safe from COVID-19 and on the way to long-term stability. However, the number of homeless is growing and winter is here. Help is needed to get our neighbors out of the cold and into warm, safe housing. If you want to help, you can go to ARC Acadiana, that's ARCH, Acadiana.org. Or if you wish to donate by mail, you can do so by mailing your donation to ARC, ARCH, P.O. Box 3936, Lafayette, Louisiana, 70. And then you can also, I believe they have a Facebook page. You can go there and contact them there, maybe help out as a volunteer, or just give a financial donation if you're able to. We need to take care of everybody in our community that needs help, and especially this week with it getting down to very cold temperatures in the evening. Vitalant, urgent need for blood donation. Blood and platelet donations often drop during the holiday months as fewer donations are available because of seasonal activities and illnesses. But this year, the outlook is particularly worrisome with many schools transition to virtual learning and businesses and work-from-home situations. About 1,600 Vitalant blood drives normally scheduled for November and December have been canceled. Currently, there is an urgent need for O-negative blood, the universal blood type, that all patients can receive. O-negative donors can maximize their impact by giving a power red donation. Vitalant encourages donors to make an appointment by visiting vitalant.org. That's VITALANT.org. Or you can call 877-25-VITAL. That's 877-25-VITAL. Okay, we'll get back into the news. Our next article is State Extends Lease to Use Land, St. Landry Parcel, a Wildlife Management Area. The Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries and the Thistlethwaite family heirs have agreed to continue an agreement for the state to operate 11,100 acres in St. Landry Parish as a wildlife management area. The announcement was made this week. The 10-year free lease continues agreements of 54 years, by which the family has provided the public the chance to hunt, bird watch, and hike. The agreements started in 1966. The reason was to allow public use of this wonderful piece of property for the enjoyment of hunting and outdoors conservation. Lawrence Thistlewaite, spokesman for the family, said in a statement, "We had a good relationship with LDWF. They're always willing to listen to any concerns we might have. We're always been able to work well together. It's been a good partnership and benefited the public." Thistlewaite WMA features some of the best public land deer hunting, said Jack Monteset, Department Secretary. "We've worked with the Thistlewaite family managing public access for consumptive and non-consumptive use of the wildlife resources present on this bottomland hardwood forest. It's a place in which we can take great pride in overseeing." The area is one of 46 in Louisiana. They range in size from 70,000 acres to a couple of thousand, said Tony Pedrine, a department spokesperson. The area is northeast of Washington off LA 10. About 17,000 people a year, mostly hunters, enter the area. It is described as generally flat bottomland with a gentle north side slope. Drainage is slow with standing water after heavy rains, the department says. Forest cover is predominantly water, willow, overcup, white, cherry bark, newtale, cow, and post oak. Activities include hunting and trapping, and game includes deer, squirrel, rabbit, wood duck, and woodcock. Trapping is permitted for fur bearers, but include beaver, raccoon, mink, bobcat, otter, and opossum. Other activities include biking, birding, and hiking. The area includes a mile of wooded trails. Richard said families sometimes use the area for sightseeing and watching wildlife. Okay, turning to the crime blotter today, which is put together by the Advocate staff reports. First story, investigators seek answers in shooting death. Iberia Parish Sheriff's Office investigators were questioning witnesses Sunday afternoon about an early morning fatal shooting on the 3100 block of Sugar Oaks Road, northeast of New Iberia. The Sheriff's Office said in a statement that the shooting involved a lone, unnamed suspect and the victim, a 19-year-old male, whose name was also undisclosed Sunday afternoon. The victim was taken to Iberia Medical Center where he died from his injuries. Sheriff's investigators were tight-lipped about the incident Sunday afternoon, except to say deputies were called to the scene where a private gathering was held shortly after the early morning shooting. The victim's name, which would not be released until all family members had been notified, the statement said. Sheriff Tommy Romero said Iberia Parish Sheriff's deputies and Bureau of Investigation detectives were interviewing numerous eyewitnesses about a suspect or suspects. There was one victim and no exchange of gunfire, the Sheriff's Office said. A local news outlet, the Daily Iberian, reported that Romero said the victim was shot after a suspect shot into a crowd. Iota man dies in one car wreck. An Iota man was killed Saturday afternoon in a single vehicle crash in Acadiana Parish. Chad Joseph Chesterman, 49, was driving his 1999 Chevrolet Corvette south of LA 91 near Heath Lane, north of Egan, when the vehicle left the roadway, struck a ditch, and then several small trees, causing his injection. Chesterman was not restrained, Louisiana police said. The Acadia Parish Coroner's Office pronounced him dead at the scene. This crash remains under investigation. 2-point officers have investigated 55 total crashes, resulting in 60 deaths in 2020. Okay, turning to our next story before we take our half-hour break with a day in history, the zodiac or horoscope, and the funerals in the Acadiana area for today. Gar could be Rosetta Stone for gene research. Louisiana provides a rich supply of the fish by Hallie Parker. The dart-shaped toothy gar, commonly found throughout the slow-moving bayous of Louisiana's coast, have often been overlooked, disrespected, and understudied. Despite the edibility, recreational fishers have long considered them trash fish, and they have erroneously viewed some species like alligator gar, which can grow up to 10 feet long and weigh 300 pounds, as a threat to other popular sport fish, leading them to be killed intentionally. But researchers at Nicholls State University have been in love with the prehistoric fish for years, studying different types of gar to learn more about the value each one adds to the ecosystem as an apex predator. Now, the spotted gar, a smaller species that grows to about 3 feet long, could be key in improving our understanding of how vertebrates, including humans, have evolved as part of a $1.6 million study. They're just the most cool, stinking fish to me, said Elise Ferrara, a professor in Nicole's biology department. Gar are hopefully going to get the respect they deserve. Going back about 450 million years or so, gar and humans had a common ancestor. The evolution of both species has occurred at a slower pace than some other organisms used for testing and research, making it easier to compare test results from gars to those from humans. Ingo Brasch, associate professor at Michigan State University, will use gar embryos produced in Nichols labs to explore using gene editing technology to show the spotted gar's value in biomedical research. We're focused on showing that they have this ecological value, and now this can show that they also have this genomic biomedical value as well, said Solomon David, a Nichols professor who worked with Ferrara to spawn the embryos for the study. The more value you can show about an animal, the more positivity that animal can be viewed. The researchers believe the gar's unique evolutionary traits could act as a Rosetta Stone of sorts, acting as an intermediary that helps translate the results from tests on other widely used model species like zebrafish with more clarity so they can be better applied to human medicine. Other fishes have been considered, but gar was kind of the Goldilocks fish that works to check all these boxes for this type of research, said David. Ferrara and David say the research money will help them refine how they produce the embryos and manage the gar in captivity. When the department started down this path, Ferrara said they used to use swimming pools to hold the fish. They have since graduated to certain tanks. The biggest part of this is us refining our technique and training our students, said Ferrara. Recently, their research has helped them learn how to spawn spotted gar outside of its natural season, increasing embryo production. David and Ferrara also hope some advances will enhance the reputation of gar as a critical freshwater species as they continue to study its role in the ecosystem. We're highlighting the value of this fish that has an historically undeserved negative reputation, said David. Highlighting its value to different parts of science will improve its reputation. All right, it's now almost the half hour in our news broadcast this morning, so we are going to go to the day in history, the zodiac or horoscope, and the funerals in the Acadiana area for today. Today in history, today is Monday, December 14th, the 349th day of 2020. There are potentially 17 shopping days left in the year. Better get going, folks. Today's highlight in history. On December 14th, 2012, a gunman with a semi-automatic rifle killed 20 first graders and 6 educators at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newton, Connecticut, and committed suicide as police arrived. The 20-year-old had also fatally shot his mother at their home before carrying out the attack on the school. It's a sad day. On this date in 1799, the first president of the United States, George Washington, died at his Mount Vernon, Virginia home at the age of 67. In 1819, Alabama joined the Union as the 22nd state. 61, Prince Albert, husband of Queen Victoria, died at Windsor Castle at age 42. In 1911, Norwegian explorer Roald Amundsen and his team became the first man to reach the South Pole, beating out a British expedition led by Robert F. Scott. In 1916, President Woodrow Wilson vetoed an immigration measure aimed at preventing undesirables and anyone born in the Asiatic barred zone from entering the U.S. Congress overrode Wilson's veto in February of 1917. 1961, a school bus was hit by a passenger train on a crossing near Greeley, Colorado, killing 20 students. In 1964, the U.S. Supreme Court, in a Heart of Atlanta Motel versus United States, ruled that Congress was within its authorities to enforce the Civil Rights Act of 1964 against racial discrimination by private businesses, in this case, a motel that refused to cater to Black people. 1981, Israel annexed the Golan Heights, which it had seized from Syria in 1967. In 1988, President Reagan authorized the U.S. to enter into a substantive dialogue with the Palestine Liberation Organization, or PLO, after Chairman Yasser Arafat said he was renouncing all forms of terrorism. 2005, President George W. Bush defended his decision to wage the Iraqi war, even as he acknowledged that much of the intelligence turned out to be wrong. 2006, a British police inquiry concluded that the deaths of Princess Diana and her boyfriend Lafayette in a 1997 Paris car crash were a tragic accident and that allegations of a murder conspiracy were unfounded. In 2016, Yahoo said it believed hackers had stolen data from more than 1 billion user accounts in August of 2013. In August of 2017, Yahoo raised that figure to 3 billion. 10 years ago today, the White House insisted the implementation of President Barack Obama's landmark healthcare law would not be affected by a negative federal court ruling, and the Justice Department said it would appeal. 5 years ago, baseball commissioner Rob Manfred announced that Pete Rose, serving a lifetime ban for betting on baseball, would continue to be banned from working in the sport. 1 year ago, LSU quarterback Joe Burrow won the Heisman Trophy in a record landslide vote. Today's birthday, let's see, we have pop singer Joyce Vincent Wilson, who sang with Tony Orlando and Dawn, is 74 years old today. Entertainment executive Michael Ovitz is 74. Actor Dee Wallace, 72. Rhythm and blues singer Ron McNair from the Four Tops, 71. Rock musician Cliff Williams, 71. Rock singer-musician Mike Scott from the Waterboys, 62. Singer-musician Peter Spider Stacy from the Pogues is 62, and that's really important for this area. Spider Stacy is a lot of times plays with the group the Lost City Ramblers, local Cajun, some people call them punk Cajun, but local Cajun group. Actor Cynthia Gibb is 57. Actor comedian Michaela Watkins is 49. Let's see what else. Actor Kadee Strickland is 45. Actor, singer, musician Jackson Rathbone is 36, and actor Vanessa Hudgens is 32. Okay, let's look at the zodiac or the horoscope. If you're a Sagittarius, don't play games or participate in activities that might affect your reputation, position, or status. Verifying information will be what saves you from a bad situation. Focus on fitness. Okay, all you Capricorns, listen up. Gather information before you make a move. Listen over contracts, negotiate, renegotiate, or negotiate your position, and get what you want in writing to ensure no one takes advantage of you. Aquarius folk, check in with people you have successfully collaborated with in the past for valuable input. Speak from the heart and take action. You can solve several problems today. Pisces people, stick to what you and who you know you can trust. Someone will mislead you. Don't share your plans prematurely, or someone will take charge. Concentrate on discipline and hard work. Aries folk, you know who you are. A lifestyle change looks promising as long as you verify information and leave nothing to chance. Dealing with institutions will lead to confusion and uncertainty. Taurus, dare to be different. An innovative approach will boost your reputation and encourage others to support your efforts. Vigorously address matters that have been left unresolved. Geminis, be careful whom you trust. Someone will give you the wrong impression or lead you onto a wild goose chase if you aren't careful. Ask questions, do your research, and take nothing for granted. Cancer, channel your energy into getting ahead, not into negativity or argument. Avoid joint ventures and be careful when divvying up shared expenses. Leos, the lions, hone your skills and improve how you live. Do what's best for you and speak up about your feelings and plans. Don't be swayed by others' actions or opinions. Trust your gut. Virgos, my birth sign, a domestic disagreement will turn into an emotional tug of war if you let it. Not in my house. Pause and consider every angle of a situation before you take action. Don't limit your potential by acting in haste. And Libras, busy yourself with something that excites you. Pick up a new hobby, reconnect with an old friend. through social media or sign up for an online course that can lead to additional income. And finally, Scorpios refuse to let anyone put limitations on you or what you can do. A change to your appearance will give you the wherewithal to make an overdue change that will have positive results. And as always, the horoscope is an entertainment feature not based on scientific fact. Ta-da! Okay, turning to the funeral city in the Kittiana area, we have Mary Burgo, David Funeral Home Chapel, 316 Youngsville Highway in Lafayette at 1 p.m. Frank Boudreau Jr., St. Edmund Catholic Church, 4131 West Congress Street in Lafayette at 2 p.m. Erling Dominique, Sacred Heart of Jesus Catholic Church of Broussard at 11 a.m. James Duhan Jr., Kesey Ferguson Funeral Home at 1 p.m. Mary Hebert, Martin and Castillo's La Fleur de Lis Chapel in Lafayette at 2 p.m. And Eleanor Holier, Melanson Funeral Home, Evangeline Memorial Gardens Chapel, 4117 North University Avenue in Carencro at noon today. Okay, getting back in the news. Reviled plant could help save coastal wetlands. European cane resistant to insects by Tristan Barak. This is we're now turning our information or our focus on the state news, which we did when we read about the Rosetta, the garfish story. It was thought of as a state news story, and we'll continue in that trend. Again, revival plan could help save coastal wetlands. European cane resistant to insects by Tristan Barak. After a big funding boost from Congress and more than a year of research, Louisiana scientists may have a remedy for the plague, demonstrating a tall, sturdy reed that binds the lower Mississippi River Delta and other coastal marshes together, but it has some serious side effects. Recent research by LSU scientists indicate the best possible defense against a tiny ancient insect that have killed yet vast swaths of the reed, known locally as Rizzo cane, could be another troublesome invader, a European strain of Roseau that already has a small foothold in Louisiana is proving to be much more resistant to the bug than local varieties. But European Roseau has an aggressive reputation on the East Coast and Great Lakes region where Pat pushes out native plants, clogs air waterways, and has been the target of expensive educational efforts for decades. It causes incredible damage, LSU ecologist Jim Cronin said. Nobody wants it. But Louisiana may desperately need it, and research published in August in the journal Wetlands, Cronin and other LSU scientists show that European Roseau is resistant to the two main causes of the die-off. The insect, which greatly prefers Louisiana Roseau varieties long periods of high waters, which tend to weaken plants, making them even more susceptible to insect attacks. Louisiana Roseau cane, made up of the Gulf and Delta varieties, considered the backbone of the South Delta and the Plaquemines Parish. But hundreds of thousands of acres have been damaged since the insect, a type of scale from Japan and China, first appeared in the state 4 years ago. As rice grain size scale sucks away Roseau cane's life-sustaining juices, the otherwise hardy plant withers and dies, and its thicker roots release a grip on the soils, speeding Plaquemines' already dire land loss problem. Before the scale appeared, state coastal protection officials predicted Plaquemines could lose nearly 300 square miles or 55% of its land area by 2070. It's unclear how much land has disappeared, but some parts of Roseau-dominated South Plaquemines Parish showed nearly 1,000 feet of retreat over a period, according to a 2017 analysis by the State Department of Wildlife and Fisheries. In a wildlife refuge at the mouth of the Mississippi, some Roseau marshes were converted to open water in a matter of months. The state issued emergency quarantines for both the state and but was slow to devote money to researching the little understood insect and methods for stopping it. The effort's funding woes changed in February 2019 when Congress appropriated $1 million, nearly doubling a Rosé and Scale research fund cobbled together from various federal and state sources. Scientists still unsure if a dire attack on that scale would work. They can't spray pesticides because bug-killing chemicals would harm other animals in Louisiana's sensitive wetlands. In China, scale outbreaks are battled with fire, but burns in the West wet environments require large doses of toxic accelerants, and the presence of oil wells when pipelines on the coast raises safety concerns. The idea of importing the scale's natural adversary, an Asian parasitic wasp, has also been largely abandoned. It's unclear why this year was better than previous years, but expected long-term environmental trends don't bode well for a rose revival, Cohen said. As changing climate increases precipitation, higher water levels for longer periods are likely in the Mississippi River Basin. Extra weeks of soggy roots can stretch and weaken roseau cane and making it easy pickings for the scale. European roseau could be strategically planted where local varieties are in rapid retreat and then managed to control its spread. Even left on its own, European roseau may yet come to dominate the delta, albeit a smaller one, diminish in size by the unraveling of its roseau marshes. If climate change progresses the way it is, the local roseau will be subjected to more stress and more damage than the scale, Cronin said, but the European could do better. If we come back in 20 years, the European roseau may have increased in abundance by quite a bit. Next story is donations soaring, but nonprofits are still struggling. American spirit of generosity may be no match for the coronavirus by Sally Ho, Associated Press. And this is an article that I picked out. It's more of a national article, but I thought it would be interesting about what is happening to our nonprofits in our nation. And this story comes out of Seattle. The American spirit of generosity this holiday season may be no match for the coronavirus. Despite record amounts of charitable donations this year, the effects of the pandemic are suffocating nonprofits across the country as organizations face soaring costs and demand for help, yet are largely without their support systems, including volunteers and in-person fundraising events. December is typically the most important month for nonprofit revenues, as Christmas and end-of-year tax deductions drive a flood of charitable giving. The holiday campaign season that charities big and small rely on is underway in full force amid a resurging pandemic that has affected more than 16 million people and claimed nearly 298,000 lives in the U.S. alone. Salvation Army, already down 18% in funding this year, projects its Red Kettle campaign will net half as much as it did in 2019. That's a $60 million drop for the iconic fundraising drive being crippled by the pandemic in numerous ways. Thousands of Kettle locations were eliminated because the businesses that once hosted them have closed, and foot traffic has diminished as much as the public opts to stay at home. Its pool of volunteer bell ringers is smaller, as many other older helpers, some who dress up as Santa Claus, are unable to participate because they're at high risk for COVID-19. There's even a national coin shortage, and part of the pandemic shopping has turned increasingly digital. Salvation Army's thrift stores, as a separate funding stream, are also projected to get a $150 million hit this year. The Christian Social Services Charity expects 6.6 million people, a 155% last year, will seek the help between Thanksgiving and Christmas for food, toys, and rent assistance as eviction moratoriums expire. The number in terms of the people who are serving are simply off the charts, and now we're going to meet the increased need is causing us to be concerned about the giving levels we've seen so far, said Kevin Hodder, the U.S. National Commander for the Salvation Army. But multiple studies and surveys say most people than ever are giving in at greater amounts than usual. The Giving Tuesday data comments estimate there was a 23% jump in the number of people who participated in the movement to donate on the Tuesday after Thanksgiving in the U.S. The organization said 16.8 million people across the country gave a collective $2.47 billion on December 1st, a 25% increase in total dollars compared to Giving Tuesday last year. That's more than what any single U.S. philanthropic foundation gave in 2019, with the exception of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, said Woodrow Rosenbaum, giving Tuesday's chief data officer. And our final regular news story of the morning, then we'll go into this. The Mayo Clinic tackles 7 top COVID-19 myths by the Mayo Clinic News. Again, this is a national news story, but I thought it would be of interest to everybody, including us here in Acadiana. The virus, now known as COVID-19, is continuing to make headlines worldwide. Chances are that you have heard different theories about the virus, how it spreads, and the severity of illnesses it causes. Information about COVID-19 has been changing rapidly as scientists are learning more about the virus. Below are the facts regarding some of the top myths. Number 1 myth, spikes in COVID-19 cases are because of increased testing. The fact, the rise in infections is not related to increased testing. More concerning than the numbers of tests performed is the increasing percentage of positive results. This means that the virus is spreading quickly in communities. COVID-19 testing is critical as it helps people decide whether to self-isolate and guides healthcare providers' decisions for medical treatment. Widespread testing also allows local health departments to monitor the spread of the virus and make recommendations to schools and businesses. Number 2 myth, herd immunity can be achieved by letting the virus spread through the population. Fact, herd immunity occurs when a large portion of a community, the herd, becomes immune to a disease. This means the spread from person to person unlikely. As a result, the whole community becomes protected, not just those who are immune. There are some significant problems with relying on community infection to create herd immunity to the virus that causes COVID-19. First, it isn't yet clear if infection with the COVID-19 virus makes a person immune to future infection. If it does not create immunity, then the herd immunity concept will not work. Even if COVID-19 infection creates long-lasting immunity to SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes COVID-19, a large number of people would have to become infected to reach that herd immunity threshold. Experts estimate that 70% of the U.S. population, more than 200 million people, would have to recover from COVID-19 to halt the epidemic. This amount of infection could lead to serious and potentially long-term complications and millions of deaths. And if many people become sick with COVID-19 at once, the healthcare system would quickly become overwhelmed. The number 3 myth, only the elderly or those with underlying health condition will get very ill and require hospitalization for COVID-19. The fact is that people of all ages, including children, can contract COVID-19 and could be hospitalized due to the severity of their illness. The risk of developing dangerous symptoms of COVID-19 may be greater in people who are older or in people of any age or have other serious health problems such as heart or lung conditions, weakened immune systems, severe obesity, or diabetes. Number 4 myth, COVID-19 is no worse than the seasonal flu. The fact is, while both COVID-19 and the flu are contagious respiratory diseases caused by viruses, and people with COVID-19 and the flu may share some common symptoms, after closer comparison, the viruses have been found to affect people differently, and they have a number of differences. COVID-19 and the flu appear at different times. COVID-19 symptoms generally appear 2 to 14 days after exposure. Flu symptoms usually appear about 1 to 4 days after exposure. With COVID-19, you may experience loss of taste or smell. COVID-19 appears to be more contagious and spread more quickly than the flu. Several illnesses, such as lung injury, may be more frequent with COVID-19 than with the flu. The death rate also appears to be higher with COVID-19 than the flu. COVID-19 also can cause different complications than the flu, such as blood clots and multi-system inflammatory syndrome, a new condition that has recently been identified in children and adults. Another difference is the flu can be treated with antiviral drugs. While no antiviral drugs have been approved to treat COVID-19, researchers are evaluating many drugs and treatments for the virus. The myth, cold weather can kill COVID-19. The fact is, there is no scientific evidence to believe colder weather can kill COVID-19 or other viruses. The normal human body temperature remains around 97.7 to 99 degrees or 99.5 Fahrenheit, regardless of the external temperature or weather. Number 6 myth, taking an antibiotic may present or treat COVID-19. The fact is antibiotics treat only bacteria, not viruses. COVID-19 is caused by a virus, so antibiotics should not be used to prevent or treat the virus. Some people who are hospitalized with COVID-19 may receive antibiotics before they have a different bacterial infection at that time. Myth of fabric masks don't protect yourself or others from COVID-19. The fact is, simply put, wearing a cloth mask has been shown to help decrease the spread of COVID-19. Research shows that a significant number of people who have COVID-19 do not have any symptoms and are considered asymptomatic. These people may not know they are transmitting the virus to others when they talk, sneeze or cough, or raise their voice, such as with singing or shouting. You should wear a cloth mask to reduce the chance of transmitting respiratory droplets to others around you. You wear a mask to protect others, and they wear a mask to protect you. So for the most current information on COVID-19, visit credible sources such as the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or the CDC, the World Health Organization, or WHO, and the Mayo Clinic. So hopefully that will clear up some confusion about COVID-19. Turning to our sports stories for the morning, the Philly flop, the Saints drop head-scratcher to Eagles for first loss since September by Amy Just. Flat. That's where New Orleans Saints coach Sean Payton used to describe how his team started Sunday's game against the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles, on the other hand, showed electricity, and rookie quarterback Jalen Hurts first start using 246 collective yards rushing to run past the Saints and then some, winning 24-21 to give New Orleans its first loss in September. It's hard to generate momentum when you're not playing well, said safety Malcolm Jenkins. After a slow start, the Saints, 10-3 on the season, found some footing late in the third quarter, whittling what was a 17-point halftime deficit down to 3, with quarterback Taysom Hill's 37-yard touchdown pass to receiver Emmanuel Sanders. But the Saints' next drive turned disastrous for New Orleans. At the Philadelphia 43-yard line, the Saints elected to go for it on 4th and 2. Hill rolled out to his right to look downfield, but as he went to throw, Eagles defensive end Josh Sweat came up with a strip sack, and defensive tackle Javon Hargrave recovered. The favorable field possession paired with back-to-back penalties on cornerback Marshawn Lattimore for holding and defensive tackle Malcolm Roach for neutral zone infraction put the Eagles in a spot to add to their lead. They did that with Miles Sanders' 1-yard touchdown to put the Eagles back up by 10. The Saints got the ball back with 6:22 left and chewed up nearly 4 minutes of clock before kicker Will Lutz missed a 57-yard field goal wide left, his second miss of the game and 5th of the season. It wasn't over yet. 2 plays later, linebacker Quan Alexander forced Hurts to fumble, his lone mistake of the game. The Saints recovered, giving New Orleans a late sign of life. The Saints showed urgency inside the 2-minute warning when Hill found tight end Jaron Cook in the back of the end zone and put them within 3 points. But Eagles safety Jalen Mills recovered the onside kick to end the game. The first half quickly went off the rails for New Orleans. The Saints' offense began the game going 3-and-out, and their most successful drive of the first 2 quarters ended with an unsuccessful 45-yard try from Lutz. By halftime, the Saints had only amassed 98 yards of offense, 56 passing, and 42 on the ground. On the flip side, the Eagles had 307 yards in the first half, with much of that coming on significant chunk plays. Inside the 2-minute warning, the Eagles were up 10 and apparently were content to bleed out the clock to halftime. But in the second attempt from the Philadelphia 18, Sanders found an opening and darted on the sideline for an 82-yard touchdown, the longest Eagles running play since 2000, and the second longest running play allowed by the Saints in franchise history, to put the Eagles up 17-0 with 1:47 to play before intermission. The Saints went 3-and-out on their ensuing possession. Hills found Sanders for a gain of 9 yards, but the drive promptly went backward after right tackle Ryan Ramczyk was flagged for a false start, and Hill took a sack for loss of 4 yards from Eagles defensive tackle Fletcher Cox. The stilted drive gave the Eagles one more shot at the end zone before halftime. Philadelphia had a chance to go up by 20 at the break by kicker Jake Elliott banged a 22-yard field goal on the left upright. Up next, the Saints return home for the first time in a month to play the Kansas City Chiefs. Kickoff is at 3:25 p.m. next Sunday on CBS. Or you can go to your local, if they're allowing people inside to dine, you can go to your local sports bar, which I have done. It's the pandemic, but wearing a mask. It's now 9:55 by my clock, which means that our broadcast on the TV stations, the audio portion of this morning's broadcast is finished with. If you wish to continue listening, I have a couple more sports stories to read to you this morning. You can listen on our online streaming service at Cypress Street Radio, that's CYPRESS Street Radio. Just put that in your browser, go to the homepage, click on the play button. Or you could go to our YouTube station, which is AOC Community Media. Okay, let's continue with the Cajuns' comeback against state rival Louisiana Tech by Nick Fontenot. Not much was going right for the UL early against Louisiana Tech during the Raging Cajuns' 61-56 come from behind victory Saturday at the Cajun Dome. This obviously is men's basketball. The Cajuns were down by as many as 16, including a 14-point deficit at halftime and an 11-point deficit with a little more than 12 minutes to play. Cajuns coach Bob Marlin said he knew his team was matched up with an opponent vastly different than what they've faced in the last three contests. We knew it would be a heavyweight fight with a different type of contender than we've been playing, Marlin said. We were staggering in the late rounds, and we knew we had to come back and win in decision, and that's exactly what we did. Led by Cedric Russell's 25 points and Malik Wilson's 13, the Cajuns picked themselves up off the canvas in the second half. The Cajuns outbounded Louisiana Tech 48-32 in the game and held the Bulldogs to just 7 field goals on the second half. There was no quit in anyone on this roster tonight, said Russell, who was 4 of 12 from three-point range Saturday. We were disappointed with the way we played in the first half when we stuck together and pulled through. We had the mindset the whole time that we were going to win the game. The 16-point deficit is the second largest deficit the Cajuns have come back from in the Marlin era. Wilson, who had a huge block and a huge steal in the second half, said the feeling on the bench when the Cajuns were down 16 was completely different than what he experienced on the sideline a season ago. Last year, some guys would have played some one-on-one ball and taken some hero shots, Wilson said. Tonight, we shared the ball, we played team ball, and that's really how we won the game tonight. Marlin credited not only the offense's team ball approach, but also defense and rebounding. Theo Akwuba led the Cajuns with 10 rebounds, with Devin Butts had 9, and Isaiah Richards added 8 boards. The Cajuns moved to 1-4 in the season, with the only loss being to Baylor. We could have tucked our tail and pointed the finger, but we didn't, Russell said. We came together instead, and we weathered the adversity. We leaned on each other and brought that intensity. That's what we needed to get to win. And the final story, or sports story of the morning, bring on the bulk. UL women's basketball prepares for bully ball at LSU by Kevin Foote. In a perfect world, UL women's basketball coach Gary Broadhead wouldn't have his team playing Monday on the road against LSU. He had requested such a matchup for Saturday, but LSU was still finishing up final exams that day. Plus, Broadhead's Raging Cajuns are going to be at Rice on Wednesday and at Louisiana Tech on Saturday. The opportunity, though, was still too good, so we accepted setting up a 5 p.m. meeting Monday at the Pete Maravich Assembly Center. We needed a game, Broadhead said. It wasn't the perfect day to play, but sure, it's nice for the Cajuns, 1-1 in the season, to play LSU 0-3 in the season anytime. But the Tiger style of play made the opportunity even more significant. Much like a Sun Belt matchup against South Alabama, LSU was big, really big. They're going to play big, 6'5", 6'3", Broadhead said. They're going to try to pound it inside bully ball. They're not really shooting it very well right now. They have athletic guards. Then on the defensive end, LSU pressures to complicate advancing ball up the court. They play really good defense, Broadhead added. They play that matchup zone, and they play some man. It's going to be different on both sides. It's going to be really out trying to extend the defense and then try to pound it in on offense. We're going to have to take care of the ball. The Cajuns have been led so far by a balanced scoring attack. Micaiah Hellman, 15 points per game, 1.5 rebounds per game. John Ray Mathis, 13 points per game, 5.5 rebounds. Tyronia Doucet, 12 points per game, 6.5 rebounds. Brandy Williams, 10.5 points per game, 1.5 rebounds. And Skylar Goodwin, 8.5 points per game and 7 rebounds per game. Okay, and that about wraps it up for this morning. Just a minute past 10. The AOC, the Acadiana Open Channel, presents the local news live every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. with the help of a newspaper reading, with the help of volunteers reading the newspaper from the Acadiana Advocate in collaboration. We do this in collaboration with the Advocate. And again, every Monday through Friday morning from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. If you would like to be a volunteer reader, please go to our website, aocinc.org. That's aocinc.org. Pull down the volunteer page, fill out the form for a newspaper reader volunteer. Miss Mandy will get in touch with you and set you up. And we've been doing this from our home studios because of the pandemic. We can't go into our normal podcast booth like we used to. So now we're regulated to do it from our home studios, which kind of works out because you can do it in your pajamas like me. So again, thank you for tuning in. This has been Bruce Cohen. Will always be Bruce Cohen. We appreciate you listening, and we do this for our people in our community, the visually impaired, and also people in our community who don't have access to news stories or to the news cycle. And again, I always say every morning, be safe, be healthy, and be smart. Please be smart. Continue with the protocols, wear your mask, especially with all the risks that are happening and the spikes that are happening now with COVID-19. So, and also, please be kind to each other. Have a great day. I'll see you on the flip-flop, and have a great day. Good morning.